It's come to my attention that a lot of you guys are new here. So today, I'm here with my producer, Andrew, who's going to be asking me all your questions. Over the past year, I've been frequently doing Q&As on my Instagram stories. Andrew thought it was a good idea that I actually do a full video answering your questions here on YouTube. A lot of you guys may even be wondering, who the heck is Andrew? Well, Andrew's the guy behind the camera and the one who shoots and edits all my videos. And you're gonna be seeing a lot more of him in the future. We've got a public podcast coming real soon.
All right, so I've got the list of questions here that you guys submitted on Instagram. So the first one is, what do you do when you're not shooting YouTube videos?
I spend a lot of time at the gym. I spend a lot of time eating food. I really like going to coffee shops. No, seriously, I love eating food. I eat a lot of food. I cook all the time. I love eating food. And I spend a lot of quality time with my girlfriend. On the weekends, we hang out a lot. And for those of you that don't know, I really don't do any social media on the weekend. Like, for the most part, Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, I'm offline completely.
On the weekends, he just goes dark mode and hangs out with Jalila, and I go dark mode and edit all the videos.
I'm a huge fan of going to comedy shows and going to concerts. I like going to art events. I like when the warm weather is around, I like going to the Beltline. One of the things I want to find around town is a restaurant or a coffee shop or a bar that has an inside fireplace. Like, I dig fireplaces. There's a place called Bar Taco that has an outside fireplace, but when it gets too cold, it's like, eh.
Popsicle legs don't like it.
The popsicle legs don't like that.
Nice. Next question is, how long did it take for you to get back to enjoying life after your injury?
It took a while because I had a lot of broken bones that had to heal before I was allowed to kind of go out and do anything with friends. I want to say it was about 6 to 9 months after I was home and my wounds were healed and my bones were healed and I'd finally finished up with my day program, kind of outpatient rehab. After that, I was really lucky that I had some friends that would pick me up and take me to go and do stuff with them. Without those friends, I wasn't driving yet, and it really would have been kind of difficult and kind of crappy. I think if you're new, the things that really kind of scared me the most was having like any type of pee and poop accidents. And once I got that sorted out, once I figured out like my bowel program, and once I figured out like my cathing, I felt more comfortable going out and doing things with my friends. But I was really lucky to have friends that wanted me to participate in their life. I will say one of the things I enjoyed the most was doing more one-on-one things. Then I enjoyed doing group things, because when you're in a group, decisions are made based on what the group wants to do. I didn't really have the option to be like, well, that really doesn't work out for me. Like, can we do something else instead? However, if you do have a group, the way that you can take power back is by you making the plans. So that when someone's like, hey, let's go to the trampoline park, you're like, nah, we're gonna go to the arcade. That was really nice. I was lucky to have like some friends that were really cool about it.
Nice. All right, so the next question is, what do you think about aging in a wheelchair? I guess just like how your life is gonna go as you get older and all that.
Yeah, I definitely have some concerns and worries. For example, like my shoulders, I know will probably eventually go out. You know, when I'm 70 years old, I'm probably gonna be in a power chair. I will probably have a different lifestyle at that point, like I think everybody does. To me, I think about like, how can I have the most healthy and fit lifestyle today that sets me up for success in the future. Like, I know there's a lot of people that don't change their lifestyle until they're 45, 55, 65, because then that's when a lot of health consequences come along. Currently, I already have a lot of health consequences and a lot of things I'm trying to prevent. So I think I'm less worried than I think most people are, because I'm being really proactive with my health, so that when I do age, I will age gracefully. I've seen people, they eat like crap, they smoke and they drink, and they're 55 and they're 5 years away from dying. Like, I don't plan on being that way at all, because I'm currently being really intentional with my activities today for the future, because I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for my future wife and not just be a lump in a wheelchair. Like, that's the last thing I want to do.
You just can't wait for me to die, can you?
All right, so I feel like that kind of ties into it because you kind of just mentioned it, but the next question would be, how do you stay fit?
I try to stay active as much as possible. Any hobbies or activities, I like to be physical and have movement in them. I also go to the gym 5 days a week, and spend about an hour doing strength training exercises or some type of cardiovascular exercise. And I also eat smart. Now what that means is eating lean meats, eating quality carbohydrates, and choosing proper fats from like eggs and nuts and oils that are quality versus highly refined things. A big hack you can do is don't eat anything that comes in a package or that's been processed. I mean, the key is to just move as much as you can, sweat as much as you can, and eat high quality foods that keep you full for a long time.
It seems like all the advice you're giving is not very particular to wheelchair users, and I think that's probably to a point that the same principles still apply. Eat less, move more. I mean, you said it in the video that we did with Matt in Texas. Like, there's not some sort of like secret formula. All that advice you just gave is advice that I would give to anyone who's trying to be more healthy and fit.
Yeah, I get that question all the time. It's like, how do you stay fit in a wheelchair? And it's like, the same way you stay fit, not in a wheelchair. It's like, you have to move more and you have to eat less. It's just science, you know, like your body consumes a certain amount of calories just by being alive. Even if you laid in a bed all day, your body would still burn a baseline amount of calories. And if you put calories on top of that, you have to match those calories with your activity. It's not easy, but it's simple. If you're enjoying this video so far, please be sure to show us some love by hitting that like button and pressing that subscribe.
All right, so this one is a little bit juicier. Might be stirring up the pot a little bit
juicy
here.
Maybe not, you don't know what I think.
I don't know. Okay, let's see here. So the next question is, what do you think about wheelchair users who aren't paralyzed? Cue the ableism comments.
If you're already angrily typing, relax. Anything you can do to improve your quality of life and increase your independence, reduce pain, and gain happiness is fine by me. Just because I use a wheelchair because I was paralyzed, and now because I'm kind of half paralyzed? Question mark? I mean, I'm able to walk and stand some. You guys know that. If you don't know that, check out this video up here. And my thought was like, I'm gonna get out of this wheelchair and I'm gonna ride a bike again and I'm gonna hike mountains and all I'm gonna do is just walk. And I got to the point where I was walking a lot without my crutch, but it was causing me a lot of pain. So I was like, if I'm gonna walk, let me use my crutch. And then I started using my crutch more when I was walking, and I was like, this still sucks, man. Like, there's still a lot of challenges and difficulties with this, and now I pretty much use the chair every opportunity I get. Now, there are some times, like, around the house. Like, I rarely use my chair around the house, but then again, there's some times that I do, just because I'm, like, dealing with pain. There's a lot of you guys that have left me awesome comments, and I love it because you tell me about, like, oh, I was so resistant to the wheelchair, or I was resistant to my kid having a wheelchair, and it's improved my life tremendously. I love that for you guys, and thank you for being a part of that, because like I have a unique situation where I was completely a full-time wheelchair user with no options, and then now I've become someone who had the ability to walk and does walk, but I don't like it. I hate it. And I think a lot of wheelchair users that are kind of optional wheelchair users they've slowly been progressing towards the wheelchair, and I think society believes and they believe that a wheelchair is a trap, that or like a sign of weakness, or that you're succumbing to the, like, you're lazy or you're weak or whatever. Like, well, you could power through this and you could walk, but it's like, again, to prove to who? Like, I get that hate all the time. In this comment section, go look right now. Go look right now and read all the shit that I'm getting. I promise you, there's gonna be some mean comments right now. And it's just, it is what it is, where everyone has an opinion based on their own life experience, but their own life experience is not your life experience. You have to make the decisions that are best for you. Your doctor can't make those decisions. Your family can't make those decisions. People on the internet can't make those decisions. Society cannot make those decisions. You have to make those decisions. And it's up to you to not let other people's chatter bother you. If these people stand up, like, the quality of life is severely diminished. They won't be able to work. They won't be able to be a parent. They won't be able to be a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. Like, their whole day is just shot because they want to please you. And I'll admit that I, in the beginning, like when I first started Wheels2Walking, had a lot of opinions about other wheelchair users that I've come to realize are wrong. Like I think about in my very first video, I said some things that were incorrect. I think about in my airport video, I said some things that were incorrect. Like there's been plenty of times I've gone and looked back and I've cringed and been like, ooh, that was kind of mean. Like that wasn't correct, that I thought that. And now that I've come to educate myself, like I just think like, yo, if you are using a device that helps you, but if you didn't need it would actually hurt you, I think you're probably making the right choice. Because I think if you were like, I'm gonna start using a wheelchair, and then if you did, you'd be so frustrated and pissed and annoyed you'd get out of it in like 5 seconds because you're like, this sucks. You know?
Yeah.
But if there's someone who, you know, hops in it and goes, oh, wow, I get to go hang out with my friends and not have to like search for benches and not, you know, be whining and complaining and not be in pain, and then like the next 2 days be ruined and I can go on vacations and like, less judgments, people. Like if someone needs a mobility device, whether it's a wheelchair, a crutch, a cane, a brace, like there's gotta be a reason that's not just made up. Leave everybody alone. Everyone has their reasons for doing what they're doing.
All right, this one's actually pretty hard hitting. I think you're gonna have some strong opinions. All right, so
I'm worried now. You've got me concerned.
does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely it does. Every time I get a pizza, I always put pineapple on
Every
it.
time?
Every time.
I've had over 40 pizzas in the last 30 days.
Chicken, pepperoni, pineapple, and jalapeno.
Ooh,
You get spicy, sweet, and creamy all together.
but you can't eat cheese.
Yeah, it's vegan cheese on a gluten-free, like, cracker, okay?
It sounds bad. I'm just
It's
kidding.
pretty lame.
Honestly, that sounds so good. I'm also I'm pro pineapple on pizza.
It doesn't belong on every pizza. So you have to figure out what you're building, and you gotta figure out if it makes sense to put pineapple on there.
You took that really seriously.
Yeah, I did. Serious business over here.
All right, this is a good one. Do you really feel like you've stopped grieving your old life?
I'm about 10 years in, and I've gone through hell and back in my journey. Where, if you don't know what I'm talking about, link down below is going to be something called The Untold Story. Sign up to read that, and you're going to get a deeper dive into what I'm talking about. I've gone through so much shit that my level of acceptance for who I am and what has happened to me is very high, because I've been able to turn it into something positive. This would not exist without me accepting my injury. This would not exist without me going through my addiction problems, without me going through my depression problems, without me going to have to be institutionalized because I'm trying to kill myself. Like there is a lot of positive that's come out of all that negative, and there's still moments in time where I kind of will get frustrated and upset because I'm not able to do something I want to do because of my disability, or maybe there's times where I wish like, oh, I could go back, and if I could go back, then maybe I could change it all. But the truth is, I wouldn't be able to have all of the riches of life that I have today. I am a much better person now as a result of all of the bad stuff that's happened to me. And I've had to work through it. I've had to go to a lot of therapy. I've had to take a lot of personal development courses. I've had to go to 12-step meetings and get a sponsor and work the steps. But I now have such a heightened sense of purpose and self-awareness and gratitude towards life that I don't grieve something that's worse. But with a lot of confidence, I can say that my current life is much better than my able-bodied life was and probably could have been. Like I think about able-bodied 30-year-old Richard, where he would be right now and what he would be doing. He would have probably still gone through the drug addiction thing because he was on that path already. He probably would have had a lot of depression problems he would have dealt with. Would he have gone to therapy? Who knows? He probably would have been a stubborn asshole about it. He probably would have still dropped out of college. He probably would have still been working at restaurants and doing valet. I don't know. I don't know because that didn't happen. But what I do know is that like 30-year-old Richard probably wouldn't be in such a great position as I'm today. So
I've never heard you say anything like, oh man, I wish I was, too bad this thing happened to me, because if it wouldn't have, I could be able to do that. Like, I've never heard you like talk like that, really.
I mean, not even a hint of it.
If you could take it all back, would you? And it's like, yeah, if you're like 5 days out, hell yeah,
Yeah, if you're 6 months out, if you're a year out, yes. But
Yeah.
that's because nothing good has happened yet. Yet being the key word. Everyone goes through like the hump. Everyone's first year is usually about the same when it comes to like their physical therapy, like their mental health, like their attitudes towards things. And usually at a year is when people, at least from the ones that I've observed, make it over, make it through, or fall off and lose it all. And my story, which is again linked down below, I fell off hard after the first year. Like, my first year was like a real good first year. I think I had the great support system. I think I had around the right people. I was doing the right things. I was making all the right decisions. And then I just kind of fell flat on my face. And it took me hitting complete rock bottom and being institutionalized to realize I got to get that back. So I dug my way out of a spinal cord injury and then fell right into the hole of addiction. I dug my way out of addiction and depression and suicide with a spinal cord injury, which is like, I'm sorry, what? But it's like, it's not impossible. I thought it was impossible. I'd given up. Again, read about it down below. But I was like, dude, this is me now. I'm over. I'm done. That's it. I am surrendering to the fact that I'm gonna be in this filth-ridden bed, just depressed and suicidal and hooked on drugs for the rest of my life, because I knew of people that had overcome depression and addiction and suicide before, but
not with the spinal cord injury.
They weren't disabled. They weren't paralyzed. They weren't me, That was a really long way of saying, like, yeah, I think I have. If you're enjoying this little back and forth between Andrew and I, we currently have a behind the scenes podcast on Patreon linked down below. We've got about 40 episodes that you can go back and listen to the full library. In the future, like in a couple of weeks in the future, we're going to be having a public-facing podcast, and that's also going to be linked down below, but that's going to be a little bit different format. But if you're enjoying this conversation, then you're really going to enjoy those podcasts too.
Here's a fun one. What do you think of the Cybertruck?
I'm still waiting for them to say psych. However, a couple of things. One, we're on Elon time, so who knows when it's actually going to come out. The Roadster is
They still got the Model Y and the Roadster coming out, so.
Yeah, so it'll come out whenever it comes out, and it'll probably change a bunch too, so like, okay, we'll just let it happen.
It's going to have to. It doesn't even have side view mirrors, so there's going to be physical things that will change.
It's super conceptual, and I think the only thing that's making me kind of have it grow on me a little bit is a lot of people who are into conceptual stuff have been making it into like really cool versions of the Cybertruck, and when I see those versions, I'm like, ooh, that's a Cybertruck with a wide body that's been lowered. Ooh, that looks sick.
Or a 6x6 Cybertruck, and you're like, damn!
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know if that's actually gonna be like real or not.
If one of those things pulled up in my rear view, I'd be geeking. Like, I'd be absolutely losing my shit. I think the side of it is the ugliest view, and that was the view that they were giving us on stage, because what were they gonna do, pull it in from the front way?
I mean, it looks like the Warthog from Halo.
You mount a freaking turret gun on the back of it, that thing's a Warthog.
Time will tell. I think anything new always gets shit on. That's just like the rule of the world,
Except for Baby Yoda, he's pretty universally beloved right now.
I love the Baby Yoda.
I need a Baby Yoda Cybertruck crossover.
Yeah.
All right, so next question is, how do you find confidence when healthcare is such a big part of your life?
So in the beginning, healthcare can be so overwhelming because you're always going to doctor's appointments, you're having like operations and surgeries, and you're dealing with, medicine, and then your cathing and your bowel program, and it's really hard to be confident, especially around girls at that period of time. But what I will say is all those things eventually melt into the background and kind of go on autopilot. And we actually made a video, I'll link it right up here, where we talk about how to gain confidence as a wheelchair user and how to get the girl of your dreams, because you have to build confidence within yourself first. You have to be an interesting person. You have to be a diverse human being. And check out the video. It'll make more sense because it's like a 22-minute video that dives further into this.
It didn't get enough love. Like, it's a really good video. It's kind of long, but it's a really good one.
It might be one of my favorite videos, honestly.
I would really recommend go checking that video out if you're curious about it.
It's a banger, yeah, but
It's a banger. Yeah. So the next question is probably more for me than you, but How did you become multiple GIFs?
Well, I don't know, Andrew. How about you answer that?
On Instagram, if you type in on like stories, if you go into the GIF search, you can type in Wheels2Walking or Richard Corbett, and you can find GIFs of Richard. You can also type in my name, and you can find GIFs of me too. There's actually a lot more GIFs of me. But basically, a year ago or so, I figured out that I could make custom GIFs. Because of video editing and my Photoshop skills, I figured out that I could make custom GIFs, and then also I figured out the process of getting them onto all the platforms like Instagram stories and all that.
Are you still taking on clients for GIFs?
Yes, so if you're interested in becoming a GIF yourself, you can go to eyesAheadmedia.com/GIF. We'll link it down below, and we can help you become a GIF, immortalized.
Put your face on everything.
All right, so this one was requested a lot of times, but basically to sum it all up, all the questions: can we see your tattoos?
Yes.
Do any of them have meaning?
Yes.
Which one hurt the most?
I will tell you in a moment. Alright, so the very first tattoo I got was one on my chest that I don't like so much that I'm currently getting it lasered off, and it'll eventually be covered up. At the time I got it, I was a real religious person, and I wanted to tattoo something religious on my body, so I just put the word faith on there.
Original.
Original, yeah. I didn't actually do a lot of research.
This was when you were able-bodied, right?
This is able-bodied Richard, yeah. I didn't do a lot of research into it, and I just went into like a tattoo shop on a Saturday night, and they were having like a party upstairs, and the dude who came down to tattoo me was probably drunk, and he did a terrible job on it, and I had to get it fixed later, and I only paid like a little bit of money, and it was like
how little? Like $50?
Nah, I think it was like $120 or something like
still.
that. But it was like
not very much.
Yeah. The next one I have, I got on my legs, and this is an interesting story. So I got them on my legs maybe 14 months before I got hurt.
Really?
And what it says, it's text down both sides of my legs, and it says, "Don't expect any miracles." And you might think that's ironic because a lot of people say that the fact that I'm alive is a miracle, and now my legs don't work. The reason I got them is when I was born, I contracted RSV. The sacs inside of your lungs that are responsible for absorbing oxygen get fluid in them, and when you're an infant, it can kill you. When I was in the hospital, I was then put into the ICU very quickly, and then I started progressively getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, to the point where the doctors, like my parents, like everyone thought I was gonna die. And the doctor basically said, "Don't expect any miracles," and just like walked off. I was like, "Yo, that's a crazy story. Like, I can't believe that happened." And so I got it tattooed on my legs, and then very shortly after, I fall and get paralyzed, and my legs don't work, and it's like kind of ironic that I have these tattoos on my legs now. The next tattoo I have is on my wrist, and it says temporary, and I have it facing myself so I can look at it and be reminded that like everything is temporary, like the good times, like the bad times. Like if you look at someone's tombstone, the year that they were born and the year that they died, their life is represented by a dash. It'll be like the year they were born, dash, year that they died. So this is my dash, and it reminds me to live my dash and that I'm temporary. So I got this after my injury when I was going through a lot of hard stuff. I remember this was actually healing the first time I was in a psych ward. It was crazy because I remember telling some of the nurses in there about it, and they're like, "But you're in here for suicide." And I was like, "Yeah, but wait." Like I remember like it was just
yeah, it's temporary. I was trying to end it early. I already knew it was temporary, so you know.
And then this whole sleeve, we'll try to find a way to flash it on camera, but I had just found a tattoo artist I had really liked, and I liked his style of art, and none of it really has any meaning except for I think it's beautiful. There's a moth that's coming out of a cocoon onto a rose. There's a little burst of sun. There's a little hummingbird on the bottom. I've got a dagger that has like a rhino beetle as a jewel kind of down here. I've got a snake coming up the back that's kind of like
twisting all the way
like
through.
twisting all the way through. It's still not finished. Who's trying to eat the bird. And then my most painful one was going to be the one on the inside of the arm, and the reason why that one hurt so much is because it's one of the bigger pieces, and inside of the arm suck. But that's just a moth in a jar. None of this has any significance except for the fact that I just like
You really like the artist. All right, last question. How and when did you realize you had a voice that needed to be heard?
I would say after I was on your podcast and I got to tell my entire life story from the start to the end is when I started to get the itch. Like when I heard my own story back, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something here. And I was in the process of working on a couple of creative projects where I was trying to get my message out and to get my voice heard just in a non-direct way, like just through art. When I finally heard my story, I was like, I've got a lot to say, but know where to say it. That was kind of around the same time that I started recording things that I did that were just, to me, regular things, but had been adapted, like going to concerts or grocery shopping, and all right, let's see what happens here. And then I got like a great response, and I was like, oh wow, like I've got more than I thought. You know, if you want to really know more about this whole story, like jump on the Untold story, read the Untold story. At the end, it'll prompt you to jump on Patreon. You can listen to the podcast from the beginning, and that kind of like helps you really fully understand like the whole journey.
You could also go back and listen to the episode that we did on my podcast, like episode 47, I think. I actually was listening to it yesterday for the first time in a long time, and it's so funny because we weren't friends. Like, we didn't know each other at all for the first time.
We literally just met that day.
The Untold story goes even deeper.
It's a deep dive.
It was hard for you to write. I remember you were like really struggling with it.
It really messed me up because it's like I was forced to relive basically every trauma I had gone through and everything I wanted to keep a secret and not tell anyone about. But I knew it was important to tell because my whole thing is, prevention, to improve the quality of life is a big part of my thing. It's like, so you need to be independent, you need to regain your quality of life, and you need to not go down the path that I went. My story is not an uncommon story, unfortunately, but I hope to make it an uncommon story through these videos.
Okay, Richard, we gotta wrap it up. We've been recording for like over an hour, dude. When the public podcast goes live, we're gonna be doing a whole section of the podcast that's just Q&A type stuff. I have a podcast too that you can go listen to the old episodes with me and Richard. They're really good.
There's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them that are all from different phases in our journey together, which is really cool and unique, I think.
I think towards the end, you were like, so Richard, what's your 5-year goal? Like, what's your year goal? And I was like, I want to create a place or a space where people can come together. And it's like, da-da-da-da. It's like, here we are. If you want to participate in videos like this, be sure to watch my stories because I frequently will put up those little Ask Me Anything bubbles. Type in your question and maybe you'll end up on one of these videos. My Instagram's gonna be linked down below.
We're definitely gonna be doing a lot more of these, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. Turn those notifications on, all that good stuff. Make sure you leave a like. And anything else, Richard?
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.